We've been reading about the play and the relationship between the soul transcendent one and his conscious force, the mighty mother. And he has created all this world for his play. He moves here as the soul, and she is here as nature. And he's given to her the cosmic management. He's the Lord, but he's left everything to her, and he's her lover and her slave. This whole wide world is only he and she. That's where we stopped last time. This is the knot that ties together the stars. The two who are one are the secret of all power. The two who are one are the might and right in things. His soul, silent, supports the world and her. His acts are her commandments' registers. Happy, inert, he lies beneath her feet. His breast he offers for her cosmic dance, of which our lives are the quivering theatre, and none could bear but for his strength within, yet none would leave because of his delight. His works, his thoughts have been devised by her. His being is a mirror vast of hers. Active, inspired by her, he speaks and moves. His deeds obey her heart's unspoken demands. Passive, he bears the impacts of the world, as if her touches shaping his soul and life. His journey through the days is her sun march. He runs upon her roads, hers is his course. A witness and student of her joy and dole, a partner in her evil and her good. He has consented to her passionate ways. He is driven by her sweet and dreadful force. His sanctioning name initials all her works. His silence is his signature to her deeds. In the execution of her drama's scheme, in her fancies of the moment and its mood, in the march of this obvious, ordinary world where all is deep and strange to the eyes that see, and nature's common forms are marvel wefts. She, through his witness sight and motion of might, unrolls the material of her cosmic act. Her happenings that exalt and smite the soul. her force that moves, her powers that save and slay, her word that in the silence speaks to our hearts, her silence that transcends the summit word, her heights and depths to which our spirit moves, her events that weave the texture of our lives, and all by which we find or lose ourselves, things sweet and bitter, magnificent and mean, things terrible and beautiful and divine. Her empire in the cosmos she has built. He is governed by her subtle and mighty laws. His consciousness is a babe upon her knees, his being a field of her vast experiment. Her endless space is the playground of his thoughts. She binds to knowledge of the shapes of time and the creative error of limiting mind and chance that wears the rigid face of fate, and her sport of death and pain and nescience, his changed and struggling immortality. His soul is a subtle atom in a mass, his substance a material for her works. His spirit survives amid the death of things. He climbs to eternity through being's gaps. He is carried by her from night to deathless light. This grand surrender is his free will's gift. His pure, transcendent force submits to hers. So this is Aurobindo continuing his wonderful evocation of the relationship and the play between the Supreme Lord, the soul transcendent one, and his conscious force. He moves here as the soul, here in this material manifestation, and she moves here as nature, and he is submitting to her. He, the Lord, the soul of everything, has handed to her the cosmic management. He's leaving everything to her. You'll start, Bhavana.
This is the knot that ties together the stars. The two who are one are the secret of all power. The two who are one are the might and right in things. His soul, silent, supports the world and her. His acts are her commandments, registers.
Yes. So the line before said, this whole wide world is only he and she. This is the knot that ties together the stars. This love, this companionship, this play, this compact, this agreement between them. This is what is keeping the whole universe together. The two who are one are the secret of all power. It's an interplay between the two of them. The two who are one are the might and right in things. He is silent, unmoving. His soul, silent, supports the world and her. But he also acts in the world as her creature. And his actions are the registers, the indications. They register, they reflect her commandments. He does what she tells him to do. Martin.
Happy inert, he lies beneath her feet. His breast he offers for her cosmic dance, of which our lives are the quivering theatre. And none could bear but for his strength within, yet none would leave because of his device.
Yes. So this is one of several allusions in Savitri to this image in Indian iconography of Lord Shiva, the Supreme Lord, lying inert, almost as if dead, and Kali, the goddess acting in time, dancing on his breast. And Aurobindo says that Kali couldn't dance unless she had somewhere some stable base on which to dance all her movement, all the cosmic movement of time and space, events and beings. He's happy, inert, he just lies there beneath her dancing feet. He offers his breast as the stage for her cosmic dance. And we are the theatre, our lives, our experiences, the theatre where that dance takes place. And she's so powerful, it's quivering, terrible things happen, no? None of us could bear the force of that dance if it were not for the fact that his strength is in us, supporting it all. And none of us wants to leave because he in us is enjoying the touch of her feet.
How to get the meaning of this? Of which our lives
Yes,
are in
theatre. Her cosmic dance. So her cosmic dance is taking place in a theatre. Our lives are the theatre where it happens, where it all gets worked out. Not only human lives, but all the lives. No? Her cosmic dance, of which our lives are the quivering theatre. And none of us could bear that quivering, that cosmic dance, the trampling of the feet of time, None of us could bear it if it were not that within us is the strength of the Lord, who's accepted, who has offered his breast for her cosmic dance. Subbu.
His words, his thoughts have been devised by her. His being is a mirror mask of hers, active, inspired by her. He speaks and moves. His deeds obey her thoughts. Unspoken demand. As if he bears the impact of the world, as if her touches shaping his soul and life. His journey through the days is her sun moon. He runs upon her roads. Hers is his course.
Yes. When he's active here in the universe, everything that he does, his works, his thoughts, it's all been worked out by nature. She has devised and designed the drama. And his being, can say his self, his existence, is like a vast mirror of nature's. He reflects everything that she wills and does. So he is both active and passive. And when he's active, he speaks and moves inspired by her. We all speak and move inspired by nature. His deeds, his actions, what he does, they are just responding to, obeying her unspoken demands. She doesn't have to speak to him. He feels what she wants him to do. On the other hand, just passive, just feeling her feet dancing on his breast, he bears the impacts of the world as if her touches shaping his soul and life, shaping like a sculptor, her touches making him the way she wants him to be. He journeys through time, through the days, following the sun, her sun march. He follows the roads that she prepares for him. He runs upon her roads. Hers is his course. Your course is the track that you run. She's prepared all that for him.
It seems contradictory because he is the powerful one,
Yes.
and she is acting.
Yes.
Now, here it means that he totally surrenders to her.
Yes, the soul surrenders to nature. That's what he's telling us here. That he's just doing things the way that she wants. It's on the previous page, 62. He leaves to her the cosmic management and watches all, the witness of her scene. And then he's also, the soul within us is here like a supernumerary, an extra actor, and just following the plot that she works out. Works out her meanings. She seems not to know. We think that nature is unconscious. He's working it all out, serving her secret purpose in long time. So it is something very subtle and paradoxical, and Sri Aurobindo's using this wonderful imagery and language to help us to get some glimpse of this deep spiritual insight. Sarojini?
witnesses and student of her joy and love, a partner in her veil and her God. He has consented to her passionate ways. He is driven by her sweet and dreadful course.
Yes. So he's here as a witness, just watching. But he's also actively studying all the happiness and the unhappiness that she gives. Dole, it is dolor, sorrow. At the same time, he's a partner in all the good and the bad that she does, because he has agreed, he has consented to her passionate ways. But he allows her to drive him by her sweet and dreadful force. Gumsun.
His sanctioning name initials all her works. His silence is his signature to her praise. In the execution of her drama's scheme, in an emphasis over the moment and its mood, in the march of this obvious, ordinary world, where all is deep and strange to the eyes that see, and nature's common homes are marble wept. She through his witness sight and motion of mind unrolls the material of her cosmic act.
I think we'll pause there. It's one of these very long sentences. His sanctioning name initials all her works. To sanction, it means to give permission for. It's strange that this word in modern English has two exactly opposite meanings. As a verb, we say to sanction, it means to say yes. But then if the UN wants to discipline some country or other, they impose sanctions. They say no, they forbid certain things. It's a sign of authority. So very often that authority is shown just by the administrator giving an initial on the paper. I've seen it, yes, it's okay. So the Lord is saying yes to everything that she does. Another way of giving or showing consent is just to keep silent. So his silence is his signature on her works. If he doesn't forbid it, he's allowing it. And then Aurobindo tells us about nature. She's executing, carrying out, implementing her drama's scheme. And she does that apparently by caprice, by whim, in the fancies of the moment and its mood. In the march, the forward movement of this world, this obvious and ordinary world, where all is deep and strange to the eyes that see. To us it seems obvious and ordinary. We don't look deeper and see how strange and miraculous everything is. He says nature's common forms, all these ordinary things that we see, these are marvel wefts. They are woven together in the most magical way. She, with the authority of his witness sight, because he's watching it. And through his motion of might, through his power and force, she unfolds the material of her cosmic act, of her great action in the universe. Nature is supported by the Lord. She's unfolding her whole drama. And in the next lines, quite a long sentence, Aurobindo lists some of the materials of her cosmic act. Lela, you would read?
Her happenings that exalt and smite the soul, her force that moves, her powers that save and slay, her word that in the silence speaks to our hearts, her silence that transcends the summit word, her heights and depths to which our spirit moves, her events that weave the texture of our lives, and all by which we find or lose ourselves, things sweet and bitter, magnificent and mean, things terrible and beautiful and divine.
This is all the material of her cosmic act. Her happenings, the events that exalt, lift up the soul, or give it a terrible blow that makes it stronger. Her force that moves everything. Her powers can work to save or to destroy, to slay. Her word, her creative, commanding word, that in the silence speaks to our hearts. Her silence that transcends, which goes beyond even the highest word. Her heights and depths to which our spirit moves. We can experience the higher levels and the lower ones. And her events that weave the texture of our lives. Our lives form a fabric. It is woven out of the happenings, all the little daily experiences of life. And everything by which we find ourselves or lose ourselves. Sometimes we find our inner being through the experiences of daily life, or we lose ourselves and become identified with things outside. Things sweet and bitter, magnificent and mean, all the oppositions and contrasts. Things terrible and beautiful and divine. All this is the material of nature's cosmic act, her action in the universe. As the mother, the sweet and mighty mother, the conscious force of the Lord. Amrita.
Your empire in the cosmos she has built. He is governed by her subtle and mighty laws. His consciousness is a babe upon her knees. His being a field of your vast experiment. Your endless space is a playground of his thoughts. She binds to knowledge all the shapes of time and the creative error of limiting mind, and chance that bears the rigid face of fate, and her sport of death and pain and nescience, his changed and struggling immortality.
Yes. So she's ruling the cosmos. She's built up her empire in the cosmos. And he's accepting her empire. He allows himself to be governed by her subtle and mighty laws. They are powerful, but they are also, sometimes we don't even notice them. They are so subtle and devious. His consciousness is like a child on her knees. His being, his vast being, is a field of her vast experiment. She can experiment and try out whatever she likes. That's the Lord supporting, but the Lord subject to nature. She offers him this vast, endless space as the playground of his thoughts and his explorations, as the involved divine. She binds him. She binds his changed and struggling immortality. She binds to knowledge of the shapes of time, all these transitory appearances. She binds him to the creative error of limiting mind. It's interesting, no, that Aurobindo says that this error of our minds, which are meant to limit, to define, to organize, that this is creative. She binds him also to the play of chance that is so important in this universe. Chance that looks like the rigid face of fate, as if everything is fixed and determined. But there's this play of chance going on too. And she binds him to her sport, her game of death and pain and nescience, not knowing. She binds his changed and struggling immortality to all these things when he accepts to enter into her empire. So if anybody has any questions they want to ask.
I'm curious about the creative errors. What can a soul can make a creative error?
The creative error. Yeah, the soul doesn't make the creative error. It's our human minds that are imperfect and err, but somehow through all those mistakes and trial and error, things come out. And it's very interesting that Aurobindo and Mother tell us that the choices we make, whether they're right or they're wrong, they are important in developing the future, the way that things will happen. Who is to read next? Would you like to read? You've just come for the first time. Would you like to read?
His soul is a subtle atom in a mass. His substance is a material for her works. His spirit survives amid the death of things. He climbs to eternity through being gaps. He is carried by her from night to deathless light. This grand surrender is his free will speed. His pure transcendent force submits to hers.
Thank you. So here in the world where he's playing the role of soul, that soul is just a tiny little atom, a subtle atom in this mass of matter. But as Aurobindo told us earlier, the Lord has become the substance of all this. His substance is the material that nature uses for her works. His immortality means that his spirit survives amid the death of things. In the material world, everything is born and everything dies, no? And that spirit which survives is able to climb, to make the great journey back to eternity through the little gaps, the spaces in existence, in being. Nature carries him from the night of inconsciousness in original matter to deathless light on the supreme heights. She carries him. And this is because he has surrendered completely to her. And that's the gift of his free will. The Lord has complete and total free will, but he has accepted this submission and surrender to his own power. His own native, pure, transcendent force submits, willingly submits to the action of nature. Justin.
In the mystery of a cosmic ignorance, in the insoluble riddle of a clay, a creature made of perishable stuff, in the pattern she has set of him, he moves. He thinks with her thoughts, with her trouble, his bosom heaves. He seems to think that she would have been seen. Is whatever the artist will make.
Yes. So here, in the mystery of nature's cosmic ignorance, universal ignorance, he, the soul, the Lord, accepts to be a creature, us, a creature made of perishable stuff. And we move, the soul in us moves in the pattern that she has set for him. The soul thinks with the thoughts that nature has given him and feels distress and sorrow accordingly as she moves him. He seems to be the thing, that object, whatever she wants to make him seem. But he's also whatever her artist will can make. She doesn't always keep him subject. She raises him up to the heights.
Joel. Although she drives him on her fancy roads, at play with him as with her child or slave. To freedom and the eternal's mastery and immortality's stand above the world, she moves her seeming puppet of an hour. Even in his mortal session in body's house, an aimless traveler between birth and death, ephemeral, dreaming of immortality, to reign she spurs him. He takes up her powers, he has harnessed her to the yoke of her own law. His face of human thought puts on the crown.
Yes. So all the time, although nature is driving the soul apparently on her fancy's roads, just playing with him as with her child or slave, really what she's doing is moving him forward towards freedom, true freedom, and the mastery, his own native mastery as the eternal being. She's moving him toward the stand of the immortal above the world. It may seem as if she's playing with him like a puppet, but she's moving him to these high realizations. So even when he's dwelling here inside us, sitting here in this being which is subject to ignorance and death, in the body, apparently an aimless traveler between a birth and a death, apparently ephemeral, having only a very short existence, but dreaming of immortality. Actually, nature is driving the soul to become the Lord again, to reign. She spurs him, she pushes him on. So the time comes when he does take up the powers of nature. In humanity we can see this, that she has spurred us to be able to take up the powers of nature and harness her powers to the yoke of her own law, put her under control by her own laws, the laws of physics, thermodynamics, and so on. So at that level, his face of human thought puts on a crown. A certain level of mastery is achieved. Lorraine.
Held in her leash, bound to her belt, caprice. He studies her ways, if so he may prevail, even for an hour, and she work out his will. He makes of her his moment passion's serf. To obey she feigns. She follows her creature's lead. For him she was made, lives only for his use. But conquering her, then is he most her slave. He is her dependent. All his means are hers. Nothing without her he can. She rules him still.
Yes. So we feel that we have harnessed nature to the yoke of her own law, no? But still he's held in her leash, he's bound by the laws of nature, bound to her veiled caprice. He can't see the reasons behind what she does. but he starts to study her ways, to see if he can gain some control over her, even if it's only for an hour, make nature do what he wants her to do. And he gains that control. He makes of this immense force of nature just a servant of his passions of the moment, what he wants, what he fancies doing. And she allows that. She pretends to obey him. She follows what he wants her to do. She pretends that she's just made for him, that she's only exists to do what humanity wants her to do. But conquering her, then is he most her slave, and we are most dependent on nature. We can't do anything without her. He can't do anything without her. She's still ruling him. So this is the soul as the conscious being in the evolution. And this play, this whole wide world is only him, he and she. But she's driving him to mastery. Next time we'll read about how he wakes up to a memory of who he really is. This is the knot that ties together the stars. The two who are one are the secret of all power. The two who are one are the might and right in things. His soul, silent, supports the world and her. His acts are her commandments' registers. Happy, inert, he lies beneath her feet. His breast he offers for her cosmic dance, of which our lives are the quivering theatre, and none could bear but for his strength within, yet none would leave because of his delight. His works, his thoughts have been devised by her. His being is a mirror vast of hers. Active, inspired by her, he speaks and moves. His deeds obey her heart's unspoken demands. Passive, he bears the impacts of the world, as if her touches shaping his soul and life. His journey through the days is her sun march. He runs upon her roads, hers is his course. A witness and student of her joy and dole, a partner in her evil and her good, he has consented to her passionate ways. He is driven by her sweet and dreadful force. His sanctioning name initials all her works. His silence is his signature to her deeds. In the execution of her drama's scheme, in her fancies of the moment and its mood, in the march of this obvious, ordinary world, where all is deep and strange to the eyes that see, and nature's common forms are marvel wefts. She, through his witness sight and motion of might, unrolls the material of her cosmic act, her happenings that exalt and smite the soul, her force that moves, her powers that save and slay, her word that in the silence speaks to our hearts, her silence that transcends the summit word, her heights and depths to which our spirit moves, her events that weave the texture of our lives, and all by which we find or lose ourselves, things sweet and bitter, magnificent and mean, things terrible and beautiful and divine. Her empire in the cosmos she has built, he is governed by her subtle and mighty laws. His consciousness is a babe upon her knees, his being a field of her vast experiment. Her endless space is the playground of his thoughts. She binds to knowledge of the shapes of time and the creative error of limiting mind and chance that wears the rigid face of fate, and her sport of death and pain and nescience, his changed and struggling immortality. His soul is a subtle atom in a mass, his substance a material for her works. His spirit survives amid the death of things. He climbs to eternity through being's gaps. He is carried by her from night to deathless light. This grand surrender is his free will's gift. His pure transcendent force submits to hers. In the mystery of her cosmic ignorance, in the insoluble riddle of her play, a creature made of perishable stuff, in the pattern she has set for him, he moves. He thinks with her thoughts, with her trouble his bosom heaves. He seems the thing that she would have him seem. He is whatever her artist will can make. Although she drives him on her fancy's roads, at play with him as with her child or slave, to freedom and the eternal's mastery and immortality's stand above the world, she moves her seeming puppet of an hour. Even in his mortal session in body's house, an aimless traveller between birth and death, ephemeral, dreaming of immortality. To reign she spurs him. He takes up her powers. He has harnessed her to the yoke of her own law. His face of human thought puts on a crown. Held in her leash, bound to her veiled caprice, he studies her ways, if so he may prevail even for an hour, and she work out his will. He makes of her his moment passion's serf. To obey she feigns. She follows her creature's lead. For him she was made, lives only for his use. But conquering her, then is he most her slave. He is her dependent. All his means are hers. Nothing without her he can. She rules him still.